Don't be so sure that your long-distance relationship is based on love and mutual attraction. 5 amazing stories. The wedding with who was the best man? The first meeting in country, but who was the driver? The little girl and the dog. The secret fiancé. The amazing story of the international crime syndicate. But first, the 20 most common signs that you may be talking to a scammer.
Regularly asking for money or financial assistance. Frequent stories of emergencies requiring immediate financial aid. Discouraging contact with friends and family. Contradictory information or inconsistent stories about her life. Hesitancy or reluctance to share personal information. Urgency in the relationship's progression, pushing for quick commitment or marriage. Evading plans to meet in person despite promises or excuses. Making grand promises without a solid foundation. Difficulty in confirming her background, family, or history. Seeming overly concerned with material wealth or possessions. Disinterest or lack of curiosity about the expat's background or culture. Exploiting or manipulating due to communication differences. Avoidance or discomfort in discussing future plans together. Reluctance to contribute or invest in the relationship. Attempts to control or manipulate the expat's decisions. Frequent unavailability or irregular communication patterns. Resistance to video calls or reluctance to show herself in real time. Constantly dependent on the expat for various needs. Unwillingness to pursue education or employment. Sudden changes in attitude, behavior, or emotional patterns.
So out of those 20 signs,
Yes.
have you ever encountered one of those?
One, come on, Chrissy. I looked at that list of 20 and I counted 7 for sure. A woman tried to rush me off the dating platform. I was on Filipino Cupid. I met this 27-year-old from Leyte, and boy, did she like me. And she said the next day she took down her profile, which the suggestion was I should take mine down too. And I wasn't quite ready to. Then I ran the search again and I found a profile with her picture, but she had a different name and a different hometown.
Proceed with caution.
Anybody ever try and rush you off a dating site?
Yeah, before. He told me to turn down my account, and then I did because I was really serious about, dating. But then when I feel something fishy about him, I tried to open my account again and boom, I found him there.
Proceed with caution.
Before we tell our 5 amazing stories that we promised, I saw something today in one of the Facebook groups for expats here in the Philippines. It's called Meet Philippines. Somebody wrote it should be called Meet Filipinas. And watch your step. This guy Mike S. wrote a really interesting story. He said he had been talking on an online dating site with a Filipina. They were getting along great, long distance relationship for a few months. One of those 20 things said resistance to meet in person. And Mike said it was 2 weeks before his trip to the Philippines. He had the hotels booked, he had the resorts booked, he had non-refundable monies. And 2 weeks before, the Filipina said, I can't meet you.
Well, maybe she's married.
Well, maybe a lot of different things. Maybe there's another Westerner that's more her cup of tea. Well, what did Mike do is so interesting. Mike writes, and he actually posted, he just went back online to the dating site and changed his profile and said, I'm arriving in the Philippines in 2 weeks, and I've got this fancy trip to resorts planned. Anybody want to join me? Sure enough, a Filipina said, sure, I'll take you up on it. She met him at the airport, he says, and they traveled around. They got on airplanes. They traveled around the Philippines. They had like a honeymoon before the dating. He posted pictures of himself. He's like a 72-year-old guy approximately, and good-looking guy. And she was a pretty Filipina. They went on. Who knows if they're going to have a relationship going forward? But he was so proud about it. He posted it online.
Yeah. Well, every foreigner in the Philippines has different stories, but I think ours is my favorite.
We promised to tell 5 amazing stories, and you're up first. The first meeting in country, but who was the driver?
Before I decided to date a foreigner, everybody knows that I was married before. And then my ex-husband's family has this, are living in the community where there's a lot of foreigners. And then I heard a lot of stories. Like I heard a lot of very ideal stories for a Filipina to meet the foreigners, and also a very unexpected story that I heard. There was one couple. They're not married, but they're living together. They have 2 kids. And then because of the poverty, the wife decided to go online and date a foreigner. Not for love, but for financial support. So then the foreigner started to support the woman. Out of his knowledge, the woman is living with a man and 2 kids. The woman did not expect that the foreigner will get into serious relationship with her and will be motivated to visit her. And then just one day, the foreigner decided to visit her in the Philippines. The foreigner is scheduled to be here in the Philippines that day. And so the woman and the husband decided to pretend that the husband is the hired driver to the hotel, to the fancy restaurant, and I even heard that the husband witnessed that they make it out at the back seat. So it's really a dirty story for me. While I was staying in that place, the women in the neighborhood shared to me about the woman down the street. I personally know the woman, and I just heard that she's dating also a foreigner. Even she's living in with a husband. They call it husband even they're not married yet, but they live together and they have kids. It's the same situation with the first example that I shared, dating foreigner and then hire their own husband as a driver every time the foreigner will come here in the Philippines. Can you imagine that in one particular subdivision where I was staying for my review, I heard these 2 stories in the same subdivision? That's the greatest scam I had ever heard in my whole life.
The wedding with who was the best man?
When I was in college, I have a friend which is the sister is also married to a foreigner guy. But before they got married, the story is very rare also. Because while she was dating a foreigner guy online, she is also dating a Filipino guy in the same place, in the same province, in the same city. And then when the foreigner came here to visit her for a week, the foreigner was very motivated to marry her and very serious. So when the foreigner went back for 9 months, he processed the fiancé visa for her and then planned to have their wedding on his second visit. The foreigner came back for the second visit and they got married. And what happened to the Filipino guy, the Filipino boyfriend? He became the best man of the wedding. So just be wise and be watchful and don't ignore any red flags, and be sure of the people that she introduced to you, that just cousins or uncles or
Best man
or the driver. So you have to investigate a little. So how about you? You have tried to date online before we met.
Yeah, I was ready to give up, so I'm going to share today. The little girl and the dog. My very first time that I went online, and sure enough, within a week or 2, there was a lot of interest. I met a very, very interesting girl. She had worked in a call center for 5 years. Her English was really, really good. She had a 6 or 7-year-old daughter. And I was like, oh, this is exactly what I heard. I'm going to go online. I'm going to meet somebody. and everything was going great. So around the fourth day, I got an email and it had a video attachment. And the little girl sent me a message thanking me for being interested in her mother. It was like so adorable. I started to get seriously attached and emotionally connected. She had, as many Filipinas do, 2 or 3 Facebook pages. Plus she had a Facebook page for her daughter. I'd kind of gone through there, but boy, I started to get a little bit attached and I decided I better take a deep dive. And I started checking on the people who were liking her postings on these different Facebook pages. And a day or two earlier, I had this really funny picture of my dog. I'll show it right here. And I shared it with her and we had a good laugh. The dog took a big smile. But I started looking through the men who were liking. And there's this one web page that didn't have a photo, but it did tend to be liking, not commenting, but occasionally over the last 6 months had liked her postings on these different Facebook pages. No picture for the face. So I linked over to this Facebook page. I took a hard look at it. It was kind of mysterious. It had no profile picture, but there was one page that was liking a lot of this mysterious page's posts. And I linked over to that one. And what did I see? My dog as the profile picture. So this woman had shared the photo within the last 48 hours of my dog. And I'm pretty sure this guy was her boyfriend or maybe her baby daddy. So that was shame on me. And you know, at that point I said, screw it, I'm out. And I gave up. I'd heard about all the scams and I just gave up and I didn't pursue expatting. I didn't pursue the Philippines at that time anymore. So, but then I came back and I got scammed again. The secret fiancé. I have an interesting story to share again.
And then share it with us.
Okay. So I was single again after being in a relationship ever since that fiasco 2 years earlier. COVID came along. I broke up with my long-term girlfriend that I'd been seeing since the last time I tried to find a Filipina. And, nobody wanted to date. It was not a good environment to go out and share germs with first dates with anybody. I was living by myself. And, my son lived down the street. We would barbecue once a week on the patio without hugging or anything. But I, decided to go back and I took another 90-day subscription on Filipina Cupid. And this time, there were lots of interesting women that I started to talk to, but based on my last experience of having been scammed. Oh, I forgot to mention, the last time I sent $100 for groceries before I found my dog's picture on Facebook. So this time, I wasn't sending any money, but I wanted to check people's backgrounds really carefully. And the more I investigated their multiple Facebook pages and their stories, there were gaps. The gaps were just too much and too many for me to want to pursue them. They would say, well, the other Facebook page, I forgot the password. I heard that a lot. So I started to give up. At about the 3-week mark, I kind of got really disappointed. And out of the blue, I got contacted by a 30-year-old woman, no children. She was a great communicator. She had worked in a call center for 10 years, and she was going to a 2-year technical college for an aviation electronics degree. She wasn't really my type, but boy, she was a great conversationalist. And every morning I'd go out walking and she would call me and we would chat, and she could talk American pop culture, she could talk world events, she could talk everything. It lasted almost 2 months. I started to become kind of romantically interested in her, even though she wasn't really my type. Initially, I saw her just as a friend and a great conversationalist. I kind of dropped all my romantic pursuits and just started these friendship conversations with this woman. I started to get that same feeling again. I might be becoming like romantically inclined towards this person, and I had done a deep dive on her background previously. I'd spoken to her for maybe 100 hours on all these walks. I thought I knew her really well, but I thought, just in case, I'm going back one more time for the deep dive, level 2 Facebook BS. And I went through her page again. Then I decided to look deep, and I went through her Facebook page and I saw nothing. Then I decided, I'm gonna go look at her sister's page. I don't know what made me decide to look at her sister's page, but I spent like 30, 40 minutes seeing who was on there and who linked into her pages. I went back 8 months, and all of a sudden, her mother was liking one of her posts from 8 months earlier. I'd never seen the mother on the original girl that I was talking to as a friend. She'd never commented. She wasn't a friend of the other woman. I thought that was strange. The mother has a Facebook page. The mother was only like 55 years old. Had a Facebook page, but she shows up all of a sudden and likes the sister's comment only once, 8 months earlier. So I linked over to the mother's Facebook page, and I started looking. I didn't see anything. I go back 8 months, And 8 months earlier, there it was. The whole family in a van to the beach, to a fancy resort. An American from the Midwest had come out, had brought a ring, an engagement ring. It was a promise ceremony. Everybody got the fiesta, the big lechon party. 2 weeks in an Airbnb, she was shacked up with this guy. She was engaged, and I confronted her, and she admitted she was talking to this other man an hour every day for the last 2 months that she was talking to me. He was 2 hours time zone difference. It made it a little easier, but basically, he was preparing visas and planning to get her to America. Maybe she wasn't so sure she wanted to go down that path. She never once hinted at or asked for money. Never did anything suspicious to ever lead me to believe she was scamming me. So I confronted her. She admitted it. 2 days later, after I broke it off, she called me back and she wanted to start it up again. She wanted to start it up again, even after I caught her deceiving me. Well, I'd had it with the Philippines at that point. I started dating again in America. I knew it was possible to actually meet a real Filipina or a real Thai girl or a real Asian woman somehow. I knew it was possible, so rather than quit, I decided I'd give it one more try. The amazing story of the International Crime Syndicate. The International Crime Syndicate.
Yeah.
You shared with me a 6-part YouTube by a Filipino legend in his own right, Rafi Tulfo.
Yeah.
He's a senator, and he's sort of a one-man crime-fighting machine. He sticks up for the rights of the downtrodden and foreigners also. 6-part video series. Tell us about it.
Okay, so there was a American man that went to Rafi Tulfo in Action Studio to complain about one Filipina that scammed him with almost 700,000 pesos.
So it's like $12,500.
Yes, this is an investment to the what we call crypto something or Bitcoin investment.
Yeah.
So why did he trust the Filipina? Because he said she was very sweet, she looks very pure, and she also told him that she's helping a charity here in the Philippines.
Right.
But it turned out that she's working in some illegal
Crime syndicate.
Yes, crime
She was
syndicate.
one of hundreds of women who were hired to scam foreigners. They were targeting Bitcoin in the particular department she was working in, but they were also women in the operation that just went after men who were looking for Filipinas or Thai women, Asian women. And it was crazy. He went on camera. There were signs, there were warning signs. She was a little reluctant to get on camera. She didn't want to get pinned down to a specific time to be on camera. She claimed she was going to Dubai for lunch. She claimed she was a woman of some means who was going to give money to charity. Initially, the way the scam worked was she wanted some of his money to give away to charity. And what kind of unlocked his wallet was she made an order from one of his businesses for like $20,000 US. And she placed the order from a business that wasn't really her business, but it was part of the scamming operation facade. And he could see that an order had been placed, but the money hadn't actually been sent. So he could see an order was placed for something he was selling. He could see the money moved, but the money couldn't get released. So her deal was, oh, you got to give me money to release the money for the order I made from my company. It turns out it wasn't her company. It turns out there was no order. So he gave this $12,500 US, thinking it would release this other money, and he got totally scammed. I don't know how he ended up in the Philippines, but of the 20 ways to know to be suspicious, I think he described 5 or 6 that he should have known better. But he just liked this girl. You could see in his, he was angry, but he sort of liked the woman. She was pretty. We'll show you a clip, a film, a photo taken from the TV set itself. So she actually came on the show. Initially, the first episode is just him, and he's describing how he got ripped off and how he got scammed, and the senators, it's saying, well, why didn't you be wary of this? Why didn't you be wary of that? Eventually, part 2 or 3, they get the woman on, and what happens when she comes on?
She tried to deny that. She claimed that she's not that person, and her picture was just used online by some other people.
Right.
But then in the part 3, she admitted it.
But well, they offered a lie detector test.
Yeah.
So the Senator
Oh, yeah.
Tulfo offered to put her on a lie detector test because she said it wasn't her.
Yes, and she refused to take the lie detector test. And then in the part 3, she admitted that it was her, but she was really afraid to confess to Rafi Tulfo because she's also thinking of the family because her family might be in danger also.
Right. So she said that, you know, these were real criminals that were involved.
Yes.
She was afraid for her safety, her family's safety. She admitted it. In episode 5, maybe her family members come in and, you know, they're all wearing masks for COVID, so they're not too embarrassed. But they're like, oh, we thought she worked.
They thought she worked in an IT company, and they don't have any idea what she's doing
Right.
and what kind of money she's bringing in the family.
So it was a really interesting 6-part podcast, YouTube. And in the last episode, the senator somehow, there's some fund for like foreigners that have been ripped off of crimes committed against them. He gets the guy his money back, and he has this huge wad of Filipino currency.
Yes.
But what blew my mind is the scammer, the girl, and the American are walking down the hall, and they're like buddy, like they could have left that conference room and gone their own way, or he could have waited for her to leave, but no, they walk together, and you can almost hear him saying like, maybe I'll see you again, or maybe, you know, maybe he's still into the girl. So your heartstrings should not be making decisions when it comes to logic and money. So there was a news story about 3-4 months ago. I don't remember the details, but there was an arrest of 1,200 illegal Chinese and Filipinos who were working in these call centers targeting crypto. So after, I think the order is that this Rafi Tulfo guy kind of exposed it and gave it a lot of attention. The government rolled up 1,200 people. They all claimed, a lot of the people were like, you know, they said they were in prison in a way. They had taken this job, they'd been loaned money or fronted or forwarded money, and they couldn't get out of these jobs. They knew it was wrong, they knew it was bad karma, but they were almost like slave labor. And is what a lot of them said. But over 1,200 Chinese illegals and Filipinos were arrested working for a syndicate. So guys, Chrissy, should people pursue finding Thai girls, Filipinas, Malaysian girls, other Asian women who would love to meet a Westerner? Is it just, is it too much roadkill out there? Is it an obstacle course worth, well, I know for myself, you know, third time was the charm, but there was a lot of brain damage involved.
Yes, actually, every time you will go online dating and you will have a partner or you will have a mate, you're gonna date online, it's not just the scamming obstacles you're gonna get through it, but also some of the obstacles that we mentioned in some other of our videos about time differences and so many other things that we need to consider. But also,
language.
Also it's like the most obvious signs that will appear when you're dating is when you're dating with a scammer. It will be very, very obvious. It should be obvious.
I always talk about there were these women with these amazing eyebrows. I think they had to go have some professional. And Chrissy, look at your eyebrows. So Chrissy has some nice eyebrows. And when I met Chrissy, I was like, warning, red alert. She's one of these eyebrow girls. She's way too into me. So these women on Filipino Cupid with these crazy eyebrows, some of them weren't even Asian, they would contact you. They'd have only 1 or 2 pictures and they'd go, talk to me on Google chat rooms, talk to me on Skype right away. They just wanted to talk to you and get you off the platform, and they were going to have some story to get money from you. But somebody's sending these women to the beautician to get these amazing eyebrows. And Chrissy, you had a little eyebrow treatment because you were working as a teacher, you could afford it. But I was scared about your eyebrows.
So out of those 20 signs, did you cite one sign when we were dating?
Dating? Like on long distance dating?
No, when we were dating online. When we were dating online, did you see any?
Well, the 21st reason is be wary of the eyebrows. And you know, there's never been any cousins, drivers, or fiancés showing up. So far, so good. Okay, guys, thanks again. It's another episode of Fly Me to the Philippines.
See you in our next video.
Check out some of these other videos, too.